describe that by being I didn't get paid. It was out of pure passion. I worked for an organization called SEMA, which is Specialty Equipment Manufacturers Association. It's the largest automotive association in the world. And yes, I did the majority of my lobbying efforts in Massachusetts, but I was in Connecticut, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, speaking for and against automotive bills that were put out. And I wore this very vivid jacket, no matter what the weather was, whether it was hot or cold, every time I went to the State House. And Steve Bedore at the time, who was a Democrat, and I would say on the conservative side of Democrats, was the chairman of the Joint Committee, for the two houses for transportation. And not to brag, but it got to the point because I really had an automotive background and I wasn't speaking like from this is how I feel, I was speaking from fact. He would say to me, why don't you guys go out the hallway and talk to the guy in the orange and black jacket because he really knows what he's talking about. And then, if you guys can get together, come in and see us again. Now, the reason that I mentioned that is Steve told me one time in a personal meeting that I had with him, if somebody emails or sends a letter, they look at to somebody on that committee. They felt that it maybe represented 5 or 6 people that felt that way. A phone call, half a dozen people. But if somebody takes the time during the day, they perceive that as you took your day off from work to come up to the State House, because they don't work weekends or nights. They looked at that as thousands of people agreed with you for you to be so passionate that you took a day off of work to come up and testify. Now, granted, as was brought up earlier by the panel, it's a hard thing to do. You're going to just, Matt, you would agree? It's going to cost you $60, $70, $80 to park for the day because you don't know when you're going to be able to go up, you don't know how long the hearing's going to be, and so on and so forth. The hot dog that you might buy, just whatever, instead of being $2 like around here, it's probably going to be 12. But if you're passionate enough, I'm telling you, if you go up to the State House and not stand outside, go into the State House and go before a hearing. You brought up the bills that are coming up, which you should talk a little bit more about later. If you go in and you talk up and you stand up and just don't talk, give it like your opinion, put facts together. And please remember that you're only going to get 2 or 3 minutes, so don't think of like 500 words to say because you're going to get cut off. They're going to cut you off. So, put together about 100, maybe 250, 200 words that are right to the point and very precise. And sometimes they'll ask you questions, and then they're paying attention. But I would highly advise everybody do that. So let's just take a quick...
Being anti-immigration in Massachusetts, it's worse than being a Republican. I mean, it's way worse than being a Tea Party member. I say it's like a Christian Scientist with appendicitis. To go around in Massachusetts and say that there might be some questions about whether our poor and our least able are most impacted by immigration is a lonely position.
It is. Okay, so let's take a 5-10 minute break, bathroom breaks or whatever, and we'll be right back. When we come back, we're going to talk about sanctuary cities.